Hello, welcome to webinar 2 of Srishti webinar series. Throughout July, we'll be having lots of webinars. Now that Srishti is an accredited institute offering arts and design degrees from University of Mysore, we thought this would be a good way of reaching out to people of what's happening and what are the different fields that Srishti educators dwell in. So today's webinar is going to be done by me, Girish. I'm the director of Srishti Labs, which is a center for innovation and experience design at Srishti. And a dear friend, Shashank Deshpande, who is a chief design officer at Globant. And he will be joining in the presentation later on. So with no further ado, let's get going. So what is innovation? And this is a definition from Webster Dictionary. It says the introduction of something new, a new idea, method or device which has novelty. And it's different from invention. Invention usually is technology, new technology. It doesn't have a market value, whereas innovation has a market value. So you do something, it either has social impact or it has a business impact. So let's look at some examples, because innovation can happen in processes. So if most of you may not know what this is, but this is how goods was transported in crates. And around 1956, Malcolm McLean invented and patented a container. Interestingly enough, he was not an ocean shipper, but he was a trucker. But his problems that he faced when he was shipping, he realized that it is huge amount of human workload that goes in loading and unloading. And he came up with this idea of coming out with a container. He at that time owned the largest truck fleet in South US. But what happened because of this innovation is the industry completely changed. Not only the shipping industry, the trucking industry, as well as rail industry. So this, if you look at it, is an excellent example of process innovation. The next one that we will look at is what I call as a product innovation. In 1979, the Sony founder and chief advisor, late Masaru Ibuka, he came out with this idea that people would like to listen to music on the go. And how did that happen? Before this, people were listening to music sitting in their living rooms, listening to beautiful music through very powerful and very expensive systems. And he looked at some research that came in which said there were two insights. One insight was people have started traveling more and people want to listen to music. And he put it together and he said, let's build something that people can carry with them. There was a lot of pushback. Huge amount of market research happened which suggested that anything like this will be doomed. However, the team at Sony decided to go ahead. They even put their jobs online saying that let's build this and see what happens. And rest is history. So that's product innovation. Then what Apple did was took this product innovation of listening to music on the go and created better user experience, not only from how do I buy my products in the shop, all the way to how do I use it and what happens beyond use, and that's user experience innovation. So innovation doesn't necessarily mean that it's one or the other. It includes process innovation, product innovation, and user experience innovation. Interestingly enough, and I don't like to use this word, but people use it as reverse innovation. Before some time, there was innovation that happened in European world and US, and that would trickle down to Asia and India. However, what is happening now is a lot of inspiration comes out from local communities, and very interestingly, the insights that you get, for example, the insight here was you can keep your vegetables fresh for 24 hours by just covering it with sand and water and having two concentrating pots. And one of the companies in Europe who was inspired by this insight that came out from Africa, an emerging country, into a beautiful product that's sold like hotcakes in Europe. So there is a lot of local inspiration that can have global reach, including local reach. So let's look at, if this is innovation, what percentage of new products fail? And when I ask this question, people kind of say about 50%, 60%. And you'll be surprised that if the number is 75%. Why does this happen? There are multiple reasons. There are non-complementary brand extensions, cultural misfits, user ecosystem relevance, business models, and changing trends. And I'll just talk about few of those to make the point clear. For example, Cosmopolitan. Most of you would know as Cosmopolitan as a luxury magazine which goes towards gender, sex, and those kind of things. But what they came out with is a yogurt, and it was a miserable failure. So it was a brand extension problem. Interesting innovation, but failed. Colgate came out with food, packed food. Can you imagine eating Colgate food when you also know that you brush your teeth with Colgate? Kellogg's was a multicultural misfit. Kellogg's, when they entered India, they created a product which the cereals were to be used with cold milk. And in India, as all of us know, nobody has a cold breakfast. So things like this, whether it's cultural misfit, user ecosystem relevance, and business models, there are many reasons why products fail. And because of this, business as usual will not work. Many of these people, and doesn't matter who you attribute it to, Anthony Robbins, Albert Einstein, Mark Twain said, if you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. And to break this cycle, what we have found out from our experiences is design thinking and art thinking brought together, and thinking about getting inspired by users' pain points, gaps, coming out with ideas creates a much better deal. So business as usual will not work. So what works? As this Harvard Business Review June 2011 quote suggests, Procter & Gamble's systematic growth happened when they moved from their regular thinking to a design thinking approach, and it grew from 15% success rate to 50% now. That's in 2012, and they are much more successful now. And what they did is they brought business, technology, and usage and design thinking together to create successful products. What does this mean? Innovation or creating successful innovation is almost like a big elephant, and each of us are one of the blind men. If we don't work with each other, or if we don't have the right skill sets to think broadly, we look at the elephant and think that either it is a big rope, like the future strategist is thinking in this diagram, or it's a pillar, like the business researcher is thinking. Only when a wise man comes by and says, take your blinds off, you realize, oh my God, it's a big elephant. And if I design the big elephant, there could be a huge business opportunity, there could be a huge social impact. So that's what happens when you think about a multidisciplinary approach towards innovation. Why India? There's a new India emerging. With Modi's announcement, our Mr. Prime Minister's announcement saying that we will make in India, we have moved from entry-level piecemeal work to whole products to what are called as new businesses and new products. A lot of entrepreneurial spirit and companies doing innovation right in India. A good example of this is formation of Product Nation, or iSprint, which came out of NASSCOM, but these are product companies who say that we can build the next Google or next Microsoft out of India. So that's where India is currently and growing. So design in this case has become the apex of economic development, which is a great news for anybody who wants to get into design and innovation. And what we propose here today in this webinar is a human-centered approach to innovation makes it better. There are many different approaches. I'm not saying that those approaches are all bad, We are just proposing that human-centered approach gives you a very good understanding about what will succeed. So what is this approach? This approach starts with human values such as happiness, togetherness, mutuality, productivity, effective decision making. From that it looks at user needs and motivations, user experiences, activities and solutions, and then drills down to say what kind of platforms, subsystems and ingredients do I have to build. In a technology approach, it would exactly happen the other way. People would start thinking about the ingredients, subsystems and platforms, and then try to see where do I fit this in human life. Human-centered design goes from early problem space all the way to solution space, and there are different methods, different capabilities that you have to have. But those capabilities allow you from starting from research-focused ethnographic studies all the way to development. And a human-centered approach towards innovation and design, and when you develop the skill sets, allows you to play in this whole realm from problem space all the way to idea. And for that, it is better if you become a T-shaped individual. You may be the best engineer in the world, but if you can develop skill sets in design and humanities, you become a better person, you become a better innovator. Or if you're a very good designer, then if you develop some skills in technology, it helps you to be a better person. And this process is not very linear. The previous chart showed a linear process. It's not linear. You explore, you define what you want to do, you ideate, you evolve, and it's all jumbled. It's like a journey through a Klondike space where you don't know what you will hit at the end, but you are exploring. And that's what the process is. So why does this help? One thing it does is allows you to remove one's egocentricity. Most of us have grown up with seeing this map where Europe is in the center. However, I'm just waiting for the slide to change. This is a map I saw when I was doing some research in Japan, and if you can see here, this particular map shows Japan in the center. Whereas the next map, you'll see US in the center. And this is a map, I worked in US for 15 years, and this was the map that I saw in US most of the time. Now what is wrong with this? There's nothing wrong, because it's just a schematic. But then we laugh when we see a map from Australia, which is completely upside down in our world. Australia is in the top here. So this is an egocentricity which you can get away from when you do a human-centered design. You realize that there is a different opinion, and your opinion is just one of it. It also allows you to have cross-cultural appropriateness. And I'm going to show you few signs, and I don't know whether we can do this interactively, but let's see if it works. So for example, this particular sign, hand gesture, means, what does it mean? It means, okay, this is great, this is victory from an Indian perspective, and this may mean stop or hi. However, if I tell you that each of these signs exactly mean the same thing for different culture, and it's a very bad meaning, which is almost like showing a middle finger, and these are the cultures where this is the interpretation. Some of you may not be surprised, but most of us would. First time before I entered this field, when I saw this, I was very surprised that I said, how can other cultures think differently? Nevertheless, we use this in our UI screens, and it causes problems. Now the sign on the right, which shows a stop sign, that's perfectly okay. However, if we have animated GIFs, and a lot of visual designers and animators would take the liberty of showing a stop sign, asking somebody to stop if they are pushing a wrong button on a software, with an animated GIF where the hand moves towards you. And Greece, when the hand moves towards you, that's a middle finger. And you don't want to do that. In this case, we may say that Greece's economy is failing, so who cares? But that's not going to be the case with many other countries. And Greece is not going to be in that situation for a long time. It allows one to appreciate diversity. Most of us live in this world. We have nice apartments, we drive in nice cars, Whether you're in India, China, we go to Starbucks for coffee, McDonald's for our healthy food. However, you may be designing for a completely different set of people who live in a completely different setting, buy their products from a different setting. This is just in India. Now think about globalization, and you may be looking at huge amount of diversity. A human-centered approach towards innovation and design allows you to think about diversity. So that's where I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to ask Shashank to take over. He being the Chief Design Officer at Globant, which is a big IT services company based out of US and Europe, will take you through some of the examples of work that he has been doing in a corporate world, and how does that fit in. Shashank, over to you.
Okay. So thanks, Girish. I think that was a good high-level introduction to design-led innovation. So, a little bit of my quick background. I studied industrial design way back in '92. For several years, I was a consultant. I worked with several companies like Siemens, L&T, TCS. Later on, I was heading the whole user-centered design function at Veritas and Symantec. In 2008, I kind of founded Claris, which last month was taken over by Global. So I'm sort of in a unique position to kind of talk about my experience of working as a consultant, working in large MNCs, and then running an IT services company, and now being part of a global global organization. So I'm going to give you a very quick perspective of what kind of work happens in the industry. As you go, as you have certainly shown an aspiration to study further in design, to do your masters. I believe that the kind of work that you'll get to do in a company like Claris or other organizations, similar organizations, is what I'm going to give a very quick snapshot. So what do you see here? And typically this needs to be more interactive, but I think what you see here is phenomenal loyalty for one company that we all know, Apple. These are people who are waiting for either buying the next iPhone, next generation iPhone, or the next newest gadget that has come up. So design can bring in phenomenal loyalty. I think people will be happy to pay, be very loyal if you show that design is very integrated into your organization. I think there's a study that has shown saying that companies or organizations that are very design conscious, their growth has been much higher than companies that are less the same. And how do you qualify saying, okay, you're design conscious? You have either a chief design officer or you have a VP of design who has a substantial clout in the top management, who either reports to a CEO or one of the top leaderships in the company. So it can be said that if you have design focus, you can get phenomenal growth. There are some common things in this. All these companies have a clear focus on design, and because of that, they're able to get a very premium pricing. So you can say that design can directly and significantly improve your sales, profits, turnover, and growth. I think that's one thing. So a lot of people have said this, and this was first said by Thomas Watson Jr., the chief executive officer of IBM, way back in '57, when he says good design is good business. Okay. So I'd like to very quickly talk about what are the kind of opportunities that we see here in India. So on one side, I think you'll see that there is a growing set of Indian product companies. So these could be e-commerce companies like Flipkart and Snapdeal and Zomato and Quikr, and so there's a lot of interest in getting the user experience right. There's a lot of manufacturing companies in India like L&T and Reliance, or the Aditya Birla Group or Hindalco. So a lot of these companies also have started investing in design and started creating good sizable groups within the organization. Similarly, a lot of services like Airtel and Vodafone and those companies have also started looking. So this is right now the smallest segment, but I expect that the growth in this segment is going to be substantially high. In fact, I believe that this segment will grow very substantially in next few years. The second set of companies are all the IT services companies, typically all the Infosys, Cognizant, Wipro, which are local, but there are also a lot of these global like Accenture and Deloitte and PwC, who are looking at the design talent in India. I believe that this right now in terms of the size, they're probably the largest, but they're also growing very healthy. So 30% growth is what. And then last but not least, MNCs like we have Symantec or Cisco or NetApp or Yahoo or Google, who I think also have several R&D centers here which require design input. There are also growing demand for some of these companies to build localized products. One or two names I can give. Intuit is trying to do a lot of things. Even Amazon is trying to do a lot of things here in India to see how they can serve the local market. I believe this is probably the slowest, but nevertheless, I think it's expecting some good growth. So these are, I mean, a very broad level opportunities that you see in India. Now, I just want to kind of show what is the kind of work that let's say people who have studied design formally and they're trying to do. And these are examples from Claris, but I'm sure very similar work happens in other organizations that we. So there are companies coming to us and saying, okay, hey, we have very complex data center products, which are typically mostly driven by command line. Now they want a very visual interface in terms of these heat maps or pie charts to show what's happening in their data centers. Or there are these enterprise products which are given to the CIOs to find out how their risk coverage is, or how their compliance coverage is, or how they compare themselves with peers and things like that. So a lot of dashboards and a lot of data visualization for enterprise products becoming a key. Similarly, we've been working with an organization called LSI, which now has become Seagate, where they came to us and say, okay, hey, we want to build a very easy to use interface for a lot of their storage products, which are all their solid state. So we help them create a fair amount of, and this involves both the design as well as a lot of technology. And this product is used by Google and Apple for managing their large amount of storage. A lot of these consumer portals, which have been for Star and Sony TV, so there are a lot of opportunities. So these companies are looking at how to improve the content, how to better the content monetization for whatever content that they have. So the whole Star World thing, you have to attract the young audience, and I think they're seeing getting traction on various social as well as web channels is extremely critical for how the content gets seen. And I don't know if you look at study MasterChef, I think there's so much of virality that every show that brings in, and a lot of that happens on some of these Star World web channels. I think there's a increasing demand for companies who you can call them as enterprise companies, but now wanting to get into the consumer space. So I can name Dropbox as one of them, but there's a company here in India which is called Voltice. So they've created a file sharing and backup for enterprises. So a small company like an agency who's or a design company or maybe a doctor's hospital who are looking at how to share information between each other. And so they've created a very easy to use interface where this can be operated by any doctor or any bank officer to manage his data. So that's a big trend. We also see a lot of tablet products, and I think this is a big trend that's coming. And I'm showing you just a few snapshot of some of these applications. Very skeuomorphic, very visual, very physical in their interactions. lot of social networking products on smartphones. Similarly, gaming products. I think this is a big segment that's coming in. So every physical game is being using a lot of technology to ensure that they get the support or they get the coaching, or you can analyze how well you play the game. Similarly, so this is a language learning kind of application, which is across various channels. So it is available on mobile phones, it's available on the web, it's also available on a very basic feature phone where you can ask a question and you can get an answer. And not only web and mobile phones, but we also have companies who come into us and say, okay, we want to build some interface on the television. So it's essentially an Android-based application which works on a television. So the company had a idea that how quickly can you convert a dumb TV into a smart television where you can access content by various, it could be beautician, it could be a cookery channel, or it could be some Khan Academy, whatever you want to consume on television. So this company created that. So as you can see, right from very complex data centers to consumer to smartphones to TVs, I think there are a whole set of opportunities that are available. I want to kind of deep dive into one or two case studies and just to give you some sense of what's happening. So one of the companies, EMC, had come to us and they said, okay, hey, we have a very complex product. It's a database monitoring tool, and what they need to do is that they want to improve the performance or efficiency of this database tool by ensuring that I don't invest too much into infrastructure. So it's the problem is like this. So let's say if you have a database, let's say your it's a banking database, and you don't need all the database elements in your very high cost storage. What you try to do is that you bring in only those elements that you need. So the idea was to see how we can keep the cost down for our customer and also provide some good visualization. So we've kind of spent some time with the customer, talked to various users, look at what their personas are, what their key use cases are, and understood their personas, understood their goals, understood various modules. Later on, we spent some time studying their entire usage scenario to see how the application moves from one part to the other part. And essentially, there are 2-3 parts in this application. So there are a lot of these high-level block diagrams that are created. They also spent some time looking at the information architecture, and this is sort of what the primary navigation is going to be, what the secondary navigation is going to be, how you're going to drill down from dashboards, how you're going to get to reporting or administration. So all that was figured out in this. We created some high-level structures, you can say. These are still at a very block level. And then started creating some detailed wireframes. So the process that we follow is that study the users, try and analyze all the use cases, come up with a high-level information architecture, do very detailed interaction design. And I'm just showing you some few screens of the detailed interaction design here. So there are a lot of these pop-ups, and this is a click-through prototype that we created using a tool called Azure. So there's a tool where you can show how you can navigate from one screen to the other. And there are a lot of these prototyping tools that are available. So at the end, what we did was, so if you look at this was their existing application, we kind of completely transformed it into something which is very visual, very simple to understand, so that people can quickly look at it and take some quick decisions. Wanted to show you one more case study. This is from some work that we did for Quick Heal. So Quick Heal is a antivirus company, but when they came to us, The business goal was how do I attract about 20 to 5 million mobile phone users in the age of about 16 to 25. So the idea was that how can I create a companion app for people to ensure that my phone is kept performant, it's completely virus free, and it gives me all the information about the battery, the network usage, and things like that. So started with this business goal. We looked at we followed the approach of discover, define, and design. And I think the first thing that we did was we went and talked to close to about 50 users across 6 cities. So these are tier 1 cities, and I think we put 1 or 2 tier 2 cities as well. So these are about 50, 60 users that we talked to, and the research techniques that we used were mostly contextual inquiries. There are also some group studies that we did. And we also created triads, which is basically having 2 people talk to each other. So it's a kind of brainstorming between them about some pain points or some problems that they have with their cell phones. There are a lot of these things like word exercises that we do, or penny distribution kind of exercise that we do as part of our research. So all this is discovery. Then we went into analysis. So all the research that we did kind of collated and put in terms of post-it to understand various things, day in life, some quotes, some reference applications that these people brought in, some things about their data usage, battery, stuff like that. From there on, we started defining the product. So the entire product definition was driven from what we found from the users. So we said, okay, there could be these 4 things that are important. The user needs to optimize the phone, he needs to track and manage. Then there needs to be some content management and some security aspects. Looked at personas. There are 2-3 personas that we created. I'm just showing you 1 or 2 samples. One was the busy bee, and I think his key quote was "Phone to fatafat chalna chahiye." And the other was a free spirit, who's kind of used this as an expert, and his motto was phone should just work. Based on this, we started coming up with some high-level themes, and there's some few ideas that we had brainstormed, and from there we came up with these 2 things. One was that I'll keep up with your life and just leave it to me. So these are 2 themes that we evolved, and kind of started working on some design principles, which are the first principles in any design project. Looked at how you want to position this in terms of whether it should be fun or whether it should be functional. It should be high involvement, low involvement. So we decided where to position this product. Created some few ideas of how users are going to navigate, how users are going to interact with this, and out of that 2 concepts are finalized. And our brief was also to come up with some sort of a name and a brand strategy for that. So these are 2 themes that we created: Phone OK Please and Fantastic. So later on, I think we decided to use Fantastic because that's the name that I think the marketing and a lot of research showed that that's a good name to go for. We did a very detailed task flows, and I think there are people who need to spend time to study these details of every interaction that happens, of how you're going to look at battery, how you're going to optimize the battery, how you're going to look at ensuring that some applications could be killed to improve the battery life. So all those very micro level interactions were studied, and then we created a final visual design. The idea was to create something which is very consumerish, very experiential. So the icon and the animations that were used were extremely simple, easy to understand, more of typographical, more of animated was our approach. So what you see here, and I cannot show the animations, but if you say that okay, my speed is something, and I can gain 15% of RAM, I can click on this clean cache, and then it will show me an animation and show that okay, the speed has now improved. Similarly for other aspects of battery or network and other things. Yeah, we also went into details of how each and every alerts notifications could be optimized so that they have a nice, very friendly tone to it. So I think that's the kind of a scope, starting from going to 6 cities, doing the research, coming up with a whole lot of data, analyzing that, coming up with the concept, and detailing it out, creating a visual approach, and then helping them right up to the whole implementation of that, which include looking at every alert, every notification, was the complete design process that we followed at Gladys. So I hope it gives you a very quick overview of what are the kind of opportunities, what are the kind of areas that you get to work with. I would like to open it for questions so that Girish and I can answer. Over to you.
So if you have any questions, you can ask us, and then I'll end up with, I have one more slide to show you guys. But if you have any questions, we can answer those questions right now. What are the essential skills required or the prerequisites for this particular course? So the prerequisites for, so we are planning to offer 2 courses in this area: Master of Design and Master of Design in Design-led Innovation and Master of Design in Human-centered Design. So the prerequisite is you need to have a 4-year bachelor's degree in any field, Bachelor of Engineering, Design, Architecture, BFA if it's a 4 years, or even an MBBS. Right? What is most important is you need to be open-minded. You need to be thinking about how can I learn new things, and you need to be a person who feels that I can have empathy for people, because it's people-centered, it's human-centered, and as long as you have that, those are the only essential skills that you need. Nidhi has said, how can design cost be like? Shashank, you want to take this question? I can answer it too, based on my 25 years of experience in industry doing this kind of work or managing global teams. It depends on the companies that you, and Shashank, I'll just say a couple of words and then I'll give it to you. Basically, what happens is it all depends on how design oriented the companies are. People who have arrived on knowing that design will help them, design thinking will help them make. People don't think about design cost as additional, they think about it as COGS, which is cost of producing goods. So that's how people look at it. Shashank?
Yeah, I mean, I think how much it will cost, I think completely depends on what you want to do. In my experience, we've seen it can cost few $1,000s to about few $100,000. So I think it depends on what you want to do, how you want to do, what is the scope, how deep is the scope, what are the areas that you want to cover. I think some of the things that we didn't cover, I mean, design is not limited just to the product, but also to the entire service aspect as well.
Yes.
So there are several aspects, Nidhi, and depending upon what you want to do, what the organization wants to do, it could vary. But believe me, as far as if you're learning design, I think right now there's a big demand-supply gap. So companies are willing to pay good money to get design talent or to acquire design talent, and they're also equally comfortable spending money to ensure that they get their design right.
Thanks, Shashank. Sapna asks the question, can you specialize in this field at the B.Des level? Yes, Sapna, we are offering a B.Des in HCD. However, for this year, the seats are full. And if you are interested, if you are at a 10+2 level and if you want to apply, then you could apply next year. But if you have a bachelor's degree, then you can come in for an M.Des and learn this at an M.Des level. Vivek Revant has asked, what kind of technical skills do I need to get into this kind of UX UI designs? See, what you will learn is, if you looked at our presentation, it's innovation and experience design. And even what Shashank talked about is there are innovative ideas going all the way up to implementation. So the skill sets that you will learn is varied. The technical skills that you come with, if you have coding skills, it's great. But if you don't have it, it doesn't mean that you are not a fit for this type of education or this type of learning. You will learn those as we go. Just to give you an example, our last batch, before we were accredited, we had a business student, two design students, and two computer science students, and all of them did extremely good. So I wouldn't be too worried about the technical skills that you need to have. As I said earlier, your openness and willingness to learn is the most important capability that you need to bring with you. Shashank, do you want to say anything about it?
No, I think that's pretty much good.
Yeah. Mridu has asked the question, the term service design is often used in Europe and overlaps with today's talk. Could you comment? It's interesting. I mean, this is one field where there are about multiple terms and service design, experience design, user interface design, interaction design. And it's kind of interesting. We have kind of confused people with many terms. However, human-centered design to me it's almost like an encompassing umbrella of any of these designs. You cannot do a service design, or you cannot do an experience design or a UI design without following a human-centered design principle. So if from that perspective, service design is human-centered design, user experience design is human-centered design. Shashank?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think these are terms that are specifically used to define or suggest an approach to design. But what I think Girish is saying is valid. It's human-centered design is probably an umbrella, and then I think people have kind of carved out few things from there and say, okay, maybe this is more of user experience design, this is more of service design. But I think today's talk was kind of very generic. I think depending upon your interest, once you, if you're very specifically looking at systems and services, I think I'm sure there'll be opportunities to focus on that, or to look at opportunities to dig deeper into as part of the curriculum. I don't think the course suggests anything which is very narrow here. It suggests a very, very broad term. But if your interest is to do something which is specific in services, I think I'm sure there'll be a lot of those kind of opportunities. And I'm seeing some trend here. A lot of the so recently we had a cab company, Ola, come to us and say, okay, we want to do the whole service design initiative. Similarly, I think there's a company called Autovale, which is local here. They've come to us and say, okay, hey, we want to look at the entire service design experience, not just the mobile product. So India is there are opportunities that are coming up. I think Europe is taking a lead, but other areas as well. And I'm sure if you're interested in those areas, you'll find this course very, very useful.
Yeah, and what we will do both in our M.Des as well as B.Des is bringing in principles of service design, experience design, universal design. Even there are things about transition design, which is how do I design for the future. Those are brought in, but all of them will be taught under the human-centered design umbrella. So you wouldn't do a design sitting in a vacuum. You will do it with users in mind, stakeholders in mind, and most of the projects and courses that you would do would have service design components, universal design components, and so on. It's a very broad thing, but at the same time, there are so many modules available that you can pick and choose in the Srishti School of Education, the way education happens here. And I would advise you to go to the website and just glance through. It's quite overwhelming, but when you have too many choices, it also becomes complex from an information perspective. However, your navigation when you join these courses is very easy, because the tutors and the mentors here will help you to figure it out. Yeah, but I hope that answers your question. Malay has asked, what are the things that need to be included in building a portfolio? And I'm assuming this is to build a portfolio to get admission. Is that a fair assumption? Because there are two things. One is, to get an admission at Srishti, we require a portfolio, but what we require the most is you. And what I mean by that is, if you can come and show us that you're an open thinker, willing to learn, then that's most important. Yeah. However, if you are saying, okay, how do I build a portfolio once I go through this education, then you will be doing tons and tons of projects. The coursework is practicum based, and sky is the limit for you. It all depends on, there are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and usually, if you do some sort of yoga, then you can sleep for just 4 hours. Rest 20 hours are available to you to learn. Sumita, what do you look for in the portfolio of an applicant? So it's a similar question. So what we would look from you for in a portfolio is as much diversity that you can show us, that you are an open thinker. And come and show us that you are an individual. We'll appreciate people who are different. That's the beauty of multidisciplinary approach, right? That's the beauty of saying that we don't want everybody to be looking the same. So you as a unique person, if you can show this is how I am different, and the difference could be through music, it could be your artwork, it could be your design work, it could be some performances that you have done, your social work that you have done. So the admission at Srishti is very, very non-Indian, if there is a word like that, where we do not reject you because you only had 60% marks. We would reject you if you are not an open-minded person. Malay, what is the scope and role of HCD in NGOs, especially from working in NGO point of view? Substantial. So the thing is, anything that touches human beings, which does, and beyond human beings, because even in HCD there is a topic of how do I design for ecology. For example, if you may have heard some news which said that going through Nilgiris, I think, from here to Mangalore, you couldn't go through the forest areas in the night, and that was done to protect the wildlife. And in HCD has gone beyond to look at how can different parts of the ecology be talked about and worked on. So anything that has a human touch or human touch point, you could utilize these principles that you would learn, whether it's NGOs, MNCs, and so on. Okay, so I'll just go to the last slide that I wanted to show you guys, and this is about the possibilities that you have if you guys decide to join us, or if you have friends, family, or whoever who are interested in what Shashank and I just talked about, and you want to make a career out of this, whether it's innovation, user experience design, human-centered design. We are offering multiple Masters of Designs. However, for today's webinar, the two that were related was design-led innovation and human-centered design. So please visit our website, look at the details there, see what you think about it. We are going to be in Pune, Jaipur, and in Delhi, starting from the week of 13th. 13th and 14th we will be in Pune. 15th will be in Jaipur, and 16th Delhi. So if you are in any of those places, or if you have friends who you think would be interested in this kind of exploration, and I don't want to say that this is a career exploration, think about it as a life skill exploration, because you don't know what you will do eventually. It reminds me of what Steve Jobs said when he, in his biography, he took a calligraphy class because he was bored, But then he said everything that happened to Apple was because of that class in calligraphy. So you don't know where your life leads you. So if you have questions, shoot me an email. My information is on the website. If you need more, you can go to Srishti Labs, which I am a director of. There is more information about what kind of work happens at Srishti, because not only you will have the academic side in Srishti, but you also have multiple centers that you can have practical experiences. And we hope you will spread the word. Thank you, and hope you got some information about it. Hoping to see you guys. Yeah?